I'm gonna transition into some Magic the Gathering bannings.
Okay.
Did you see the B&R announcement?
I did.
Okay, great. Fable the Mirror Breaker. I think that's about as easy as it gets.
I think so too. I mean, I do abstractly love the design. I like things that are paying you out in a bunch of different ways. It's not a super linear card, but it is, I think, it's just too much.
All right, so let me ask you this. With Fable, as someone who does not design Magic cards, if Chapter 2 was Rummage 1 instead of 2 cards, does that make the card better, safer, less bannable, whatever terminology we want to use here?
Definitely.
Or is it still all just too much in the greater scheme of things?
No, I think that Rummage 2 to Rummage 1 is a huge deal. The problem is that, in my opinion, I'm sure people who are more familiar with the specifics of the metagame would point to different card-to-card interactions. But from my perspective of a top level, it's a card that requires 2 shocks and also gives you a huge advantage if the game goes late because of Chapter 2 smoothing you out.
Yep.
So how are you supposed to build a deck that plays a bunch of shocks and also can hang when a game goes on a million turns and someone's doing that much rummaging? It's just pulling you in too many different directions.
Yeah.
And the answer, as it turns out, was just play your own Fables. Yep. 1, because all right, at least some symmetry, and 2, it's just so happens that red is going to give you a lot of cards if you want them that can help you in the fighting over 2/2s kind of fight.
Yeah. You have to kill the goblin that this stupid thing makes. Yeah. Because it makes then the treasure making goblin starts going, and like that's a lot all by itself. And then the rummaging is a lot, and then of course, well, you know, when that thing transforms into walking Kiki Jiki, that's a ton too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't know if maybe the rummage would help, but clearly it probably wouldn't help enough. And I do agree with you that it's just
but all the things matter. Like people want to talk about like, oh no, it's just inherently no. It's like all the numbers on the card matter, but you know, you can't pull any of the numbers back at this point. The card went to print, and it's not a bad bet. It's not an indefensible place to put a lot of PowerPoints. To the extent that I've shot high as a designer in other games, it's like it's with cards like this.
Yeah, sure.
It's like it's a bunch of different stuff and a bunch of different decisions, and you know, it's not a super linear thing. You can play it in a mid-range deck or a beatdown deck or a control deck because it's kind of doing a bunch of different little things. So I'm totally sympathetic to setting this one out the door high, but there's no point in trying to defend it at this point. Been around for a long time. It's the best thing going on. Play with some new cards.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Try some new stuff.
Just play with some new cards.
Yeah. Bankbuster, ubiquitous. Any deck can play it. Pretty straightforward. Just like, I don't want to say it's Fable. I don't want to say it's Fable adjacent because it's not red, but like it's just the same thing every game. This one very much to me was just like this one. Much like Fable was just like play some new cards. We've seen enough of this.
Yeah, there's 2 powerful arguments for banning this one besides raid, in my opinion. 1, it's an artifact, so it really increases the ubiquity. And 2, I don't want to read this anymore. This is like not the most artful thing. This is trying very hard.
Okay.
Yeah. So another design where, there's a lot of stuff going on. There's playing you out in a bunch of different ways, and it's dynamic. And sometimes you just kind of go on offense with it. Not a bad bet abstractly, but another one where we've seen enough. Let's move on. Let's play with some new cards.